Sound good? Very cool. So we'll see what happens.
There you go.
Yeah, that's great. All right, so I'm on the number 3 here in the handout, and you'll see these 3 Japanese or kanji, probably Chinese, but kanji characters. And they express these words shu, ha, and ri. I'll talk about the shu, ha, and ri. The reason for this is that people learn skills in 3 stages. Pretty much any skill, whether it's teaching your children to tie shoelaces, or if you're learning to bake, if you're learning to program, you're learning agile, you're learning project management. Anything that's a skill that you learn, people start by asking for a technique. And they say, give me a technique, I assume it'll work, and they measure themselves as, can I copy this technique? That's the first stage of learning. Even if I know about shu, ha, ri, I still start off with the first thing. I know there's 10 techniques, but I can't learn 10 techniques. I say, just teach me one. Give me a good one, I'll practice it. So we call that shu. That's level 1, right? And it's in English, it works also in German, it works. Shu is like a shoe, so we can make some jokes about shoes. One person said in English, one shoe doesn't fit all. Okay, so one technique doesn't work for all of the time. So you're working with your shoe level technique, and you work for a while, and after a while, it stops working, right? You're in a situation that doesn't work anymore. So then you say, okay, I'm ready for another technique. Now you enter the second stage, that's called ha in Japanese. And ha, you start to collect techniques. You learn technique, 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 technique. So you learn Scrum, then you learn XP, then you learn Crystal, you learn DSDM, you learn learn. But there's still distinct techniques. When you get to the third level, if you ever get to the third level, people in the third level, they invent techniques, they blend, they mix, they splice, they cut, they glue. It's a full body experience, and they don't even know what they do anymore. So you ask them, what are you doing? They go, I'm just doing it. You ask anybody who's a good cook, I've seen people make their strudel, and this lady, she just pours this big pile of flour on there. I go, how much flour have you got there? She goes, I don't know that much. It's how much flour I have. Puts an egg in there and some water, and then strudel comes out, right? So she doesn't even know what she's doing anymore. So people in the re level can't explain what they're doing, because it's in their reflexes. So now there's some interesting contradictions between shu level and re level. And the first is that shu level techniques are supposed to be widely applicable. Re level techniques are very specific. I mean, you use this much water only because the humidity is like this, and that's how you use it. You change altitude, you use a different amount of water. The problem is that any of the software development situations that you will be in need re-level tuning. But we come to these classes and we get shu level learning. So you can't win in a competitive industry using shu level techniques. So I have to get you out of what we call the shoebox. So when you start in shu, right, people get trapped in the shu level, what we call get trapped in the shoebox. And so my job is to kick you out of the shoebox and get you going down the way. Now the difficulty is that I know you have to start with shu, so I have to give you some shu level techniques here. But I have to make sure that you don't get stuck in the shoebox. Because when you come out, you say, okay, I have a starter level stuff, I can do that, but this is a competitive industry. The other people that I'm competing against are using more advanced techniques. And your goal is to get to a place where you're mixing and blending and you know enough you can invent it on the fly. The other problem is that when you ask me a question, since I'm re-level, I'll ask you 5 questions back trying to narrow the context so I can give you the perfect answer. And you'll be going, well, just tell me the answer. Why are you getting so complicated about this? And well, I can't give you the answer because I need to know exactly how it's going to be like that. So for example, I was in Helsinki and with Nokia, and they had a team that was split between Finland and Beijing, China. The programmers were in Beijing, the user interface designers were in Finland. They had 2-week sprints, and the problem was that people in China wouldn't commit to what they would do in 2 weeks because the user interface designers kept changing things. said, well, that's okay. Then you just freeze the user interface design every 2 weeks, and you give them a stable interface to work to. Then they can work for 2 weeks. And I said, yeah, but we tried an experiment. We sent the people from Finland to Beijing, and they were working together, and then it worked just fine. So, of course. Of course, it's a different situation. The people and the programmers in Beijing are face-to-face talking with the UI designers. They're not worried if the user interface changes. They understand when it's changing, why it's changing, how it's changing is very rich. So you have to have two different procedures. One is when they're separated, you have to lock the interface, the user interface, every 2 weeks. And if they're co-located, then you can loosen the interface. Right? So two completely different answers. Same company, same team, same assignment, only this one small thing changes and the answers come out different. So that's an example of getting very specific with RE level stuff. So that's the Shu RE. So in this course, I will give you at times specific Shu level techniques for the reflection workshop or the retrospect, if you will. I'll show a planning technique that's Shu level. I'll show something about organizing features and story cards in 2 dimensions, that's Shu level. But after that, I have to get you out of the shoebox and moving into Ha-Anri. And that's why I start now every class, almost every lecture, with a description of Shu-Anri. Okay, Deborah?